Hello chess friends and welcome to Zarov's chess channel and welcome to our French defense series. So in this series we're covering all of the possible lines, all of these possible sidelines that can happen to you maybe from white's and from black's perspective. And as I mentioned always in my previous videos, please start this series from the first video, then the second video, third and so on in order to get a better understanding of this particular video that I wanted to show you today. And I've covered so many lines already in this French defense series, but I've covered also some instructive chess games, in particular opening lines. And today I wanted to show you also a great game played by the legendary Alexander Morozevich with the black pieces against Borki Predojevic. So this is very important, I think, this line that Alexander Morozevich has prepared. In my previous video, I've showed you really this great possibility of the French defense to play the move g5. Today we'll try this move also, so this will be a similar video like in this before, but here white will try a different move order, which can maybe annoy you sometimes. I think it's a very important sideline that white can play, and as I said, if you want to be more familiar with this video, please watch my videos before in order to get a better understanding of this one. So we're continuing now our series with this instructive chess game played with Alexander Morozevich with the black pieces. Borki Predojevic, as I said, opened with the move e4, and we have e6, d4, we have d5, knight to c3, we have knight to f6, and now after e5 we have the classical normal variation. Sometimes it's called the Steinitz or the Boleslavsky variation, and I'm taking this series really patiently. We will have at least, I think, 40 or maybe even 45 videos in the French defense. So if you have noticed, when I start this series, I really like to study them from A to Z, because then you maybe have a good opening preparation for white, for black. So I think we will have at least, as I said, 40 videos in this very nice opening. So after the move e5, here comes our normal move, knight to d7, f4, so this will be also the line that we have analyzed so far. But after the move c5, knight to f3, we have knight to c6, bishop to e3, and in my previous video I have also recommended this move a6. So this is now our preparation. I've explained this positional ideas about this move, so here we are not allowing our opponent to play the move bishop to b5. And today we'll analyze a very nice idea here by white. It's the move knight to e2. The idea behind this move is to regroup, to move again the knight on the king side, because first of all, I've mentioned now in really every video of my French defense series, we have this directed attack, so we have this block pawn structure in the center. White is of course coordinating the attack on the king side, because the pawns are showing us the direction here, this d4 and d5 pawns. So probably white will continue his attack here somewhere on the king side. On the other hand, black would probably continue the attack on the queen side, because our pawn structure is showing us also the direction of the attack. And this idea to play the move knight to e2 has a double function. First of all, we want to remaneuver a knight on the king side, where we are simply better. We have of course the better activity because we have this advanced pawn on e5, so that's why this idea is to play more with more attacking pieces on the king side. But there is also a nice positional idea. It's the move c3. So here white is trying to fix the center with the move c3. After potential c takes d4, then white would have another pawn to recapture. Then we could play c takes d4, and the pawn structure on the queen side would be simply, I think, symmetrical. So let's see, maybe a positional possible continuation. After bishop to e7, maybe c3. Let's just imagine this wasn't played in the game, because after c takes d4 and c takes d4, now suddenly in this position black doesn't have anything, because as I said, we would love to coordinate now our attack on the queen side, because the pawns are showing us, as I said, but now the pawn structure is symmetrical. You see, we don't have maybe a 3 versus 2 situation, we don't have maybe a possible minority attack, we have really a splash situation on the queen side. So that's why it wouldn't be such a good idea to recapture the pawn immediately. So here my recommendation after the move knight to e2 is now finally to play the move queen to b6, because this queen to b6 wouldn't be possible if the knight would have been still here on c3. Then knight to a5 would be a possible continuation. After queen to a5, white would then fix the position with the move c3. But now white has left the defense of this square c3, and the problem is now that the b2 pawn is hanging, and here in the game Borki Predojevic tried to move queen to c1. This is still common theory, and now comes again our stunner, with which you can really surprise your opponent. In my previous video we have analyzed this potential g5, so in this game Alexander Morozevich pulled off again this very nice tactical line g5. This is really my recommendation if you want to get out of the French really in a very active way. g5, very nice move. Now the problem is the knight or the pawn will be deflected from the defense of the center or of the defense of the e5 pawn. As I said, I've explained this move more in my previous video. In the game c3, Borki Predojevic tries to simply fix the center. Now here after c takes d4, we have c takes d4, but at least now we have this again symmetrical pawn structure. At least we have already challenged white dominant center. We have already at least challenged this pawn on f4. Now Alexander Morozevich plays a very nice move. He plays the move bishop to b4. First, getting out with our bishop, white needs to bring something in between. You see, if white brings maybe the bishop, then the d4 pawn could be problematic, or even this pawn on f4. Let's see, maybe bishop to d2. The problem is now we can simply take here after potential bishop to b4, here queen to b4, and you see again this d4 pawn would be hanging. So it's really so far a great game by Alexander Morozevich. In the game after bishop to b4, king to f2 was played, and what white has accomplished here, white has secured the king, because white would need still many moves in order to castle. That's the problem. You still have to play somewhere with your knight, you have to play with your bishop. So now we have lost a tempo already, so I think white would need at least 3-4 tempos in order to secure the king. So that's why Borki Predojevic decided to go with the move king to f2, but now we have f6. This is really our great attacking formation against this setup of white. In the game, Predojevic tried g3, really desperately trying to hang on to this pawn-centric control that white has built here. But in the game, we have g4, simply attacking further. We after knight to h4, here Morozevich took f takes e5. I think even a possibility is here to play the move f5. It's of course a more positional idea, but we will go of course tactically into the game. We like tactics, that's why I recommend you to play more tactically, play more bravely. Here we could really play the move f5. It's not the worst position I think here for black, because at least we have solved our positional problems on the king side. White's pawn central control that he has built here around the pawn e5 is not so important anymore. So if you want to go more positional into the game, you can try move f5, but here Morozevich takes f takes e5 and tries really to split open the position. In the game f takes e5, and now knight takes e5. Great tactics here by Morozevich. You see there is some tension going on this dark square diagonal. After d takes e5, we have d4, simply passing through, bishop to f4, and now rook to f8. Okay, we're a piece down, but here I think black has really huge activity, huge attacking possibilities. Now we are threatening even this discovered attack, and you see how problematic this move knight to e2 can be, because we have taken this diagonal for our bishop, and what you need to do now is also to get out with your king of this dark square mess. So that's why Predojevic played the move king to g2, but now bishop to d7, simply also threatening something like rook to c8 and opening the c file. So in the game h3 was played by Predojevic, and now comes the move d3, attacking the knight. We have h takes g4, and now d takes e2. Here in this position, Morozevich got his piece back, and after bishop to e2, we have knight to d4. Here I think black has already a comfortable game, has a better activity with the pieces. Let's count the pawns. We have 4 pawns, white has 5 pawns, but these are double pawns. Still this king is endangered. We have to also improve the position of our king, of course. We want to maybe castle now even queenside, but I really like this attacking formation that Alexander Morozevich has built here. Now we have a comfortable game, really with some great attacking possibilities. In the game, queen to e3 was played, bishop to c5, of course, getting on the diagonal. We have b4, trying to decoy the queen a little bit to the b file where the rook could attack it. But here Morozevich simply takes, queen takes b4, after rook takes rook to b1, queen to a5. We have everything protected again, and now king to h3. Okay, white's king is now secured, but again, still I like this really piece activity in the game. Knight to e2, discoverly attacking the queen. You have to take the knight, and now bishop to d4. Here I think black has a comfortable game. Will simply take the rook. Although, as I said, it seems a little bit that our king is endangered, but still this is playable. So far, white cannot activate more pieces in the attack. You see the knight is really out of game. Black is taking both of the squares for the knight. The knight is really on the edge of the board. You don't want to have, of course, the knights on the edge of the board. And still, we have the bishop here. This is an open position, so that's why I think black has a better game. So in the game, bishop to h6, attacking the rook, but you see now the activity of these bishops allows us now also some kind of a rook lift here. Queen to e4 was played, and now Morozevich simply takes after rook takes a1. Here even queenside castling is possible. Rook to c1 is not so dangerous. We can simply escape. Okay, you still need to defend, but as I said here, Morozevich is up the exchange. We have bishop to g5, bishop to c6, and now rook to c1. We have sort of a threat here, maybe to take rook takes c6, followed with queen to c6. In the game, Morozevich tried to trade off the queens, which is a good idea, of course. After queen takes h7, queen to a2, now threatening even the checkmate here. In the game, rook takes c6, but this was really a desperate try. Nothing can happen in this position. After queen to f3, we have bishop takes d8, king takes d8, and in this position, Borki Predojevic resigned. So you could try some more checks, but I think black can defend, of course, with some coverage with the rook, and it was game over. So let's go back. Here, as I said, the move knight to e2 you could face sometimes. The idea is to lock the center with the move c3 to remaneuver the knight, liberate the bishop and castle, and then really smash you on the king side with some pawn storms. Then white would really remaneuver all of the pieces on the king side. But here I think you have to be active first with this move queen to b6, forcing out of tempo. Here after the move queen to c1, now g5, g5. Great move here again by Alexander Morozevich. If you take, for instance, with the move knight takes g5, then again we have simply this idea to take, followed with bishop to c5 or knight to c5, knight to e4. So it would be, I think, again a comfortable game. So here I think we have covered these lines that you can play from black's perspective, at least in this classical or normal Steinitz variation. In the next video we'll analyze also white's idea to play the move bishop to g5 in this particular moment. Here after the move knight to f6, bishop to g5. Here I recommend you, so far we'll do also an extra video about this particular line. I recommend you to play d takes e4 after knight takes e4, bishop to e7. Can solve really all of your positional problems, but as I said, we'll analyze also this line in our future videos of the French defense. So I hope that you realized these ideas, what white can do and how it should counterplay. If you want to see more videos of this very nice opening, check out my whole list of the French defense. Here's the link. And if you have troubles to play against d4, check out my King's Indian and Nimzo Indian videos, in which I show a really nice and effective way how to play against d4. And if you like these videos, you can also subscribe to my channel. See you soon with some more videos, and chess is the best, of course.